Hello and welcome to the championship circus.
This height be the type of shit that keep me up at night. Never short of a breath when I spit my rhymes. Clever forms I express every fucking time. Bring me back to the light when I ain't feeling right. This life, something special when I'm on my grind. Never short of the stress when I spit the mind. But of course, never rest until I fucking die. For the more I obsess and rock the fucking.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, jokers of all ages, welcome back into the second last Thursday thriller of the year. We got one more for you real fucking grinders that are going to play the disgusting Week 18 championship. But for most people, the championship, it is now. And so I had to bring in some help.
You think you know me?
Mike Lindberg at FF Canuck 99. Welcome in the Thursday Thriller.
Awesome. I'm so happy to be here. It's great to collab with a fellow Canadian. Let's go.
So just quickly, for those new to you, like myself, because this is like our first time meeting, just on camera, but in real life, where do we find your work and that kind of good shit?
Well, I originally started and I still do a lot of work for Dynasty Pros. So they're kind of a startup. I've been doing stuff with them since August. And then recently I've been doing the news desk with Player Profiler as well. So I've been kind of, starting out with them, getting onto some YouTube shorts, doing some updates on the website as far as player news once it breaks and stuff like that. And just grinded away. I recently left High Point, so now I'm looking for other stuff to do, but things are going well, and I'm excited to collab with yourself, Jack. So thanks for having me on.
I'm super happy to have you on the show. Usually the fantasy joker, I'm more of the comedian side, so I definitely wanted to get a little serious since it's championship week. With that said, though, we're going to kick it off, obviously, with a stupid meme.
Kamini Soma Kanda Kram. Shiva Kamini Soma Kanda Kram. Shiva Kamini Soma Kanda Kram. Hey! Shiva Kamini Soma Kanda Kram. Shiva Kamini Soma Kanda Kram. Hey! Shiva Kamini Soma Kanda Kram. Shiva Kamini Soma Kanda Kram. Hey!
Hey, if that doesn't fucking get you amped, we'll kick it off right away. Thursday night football. It's happening tonight. It's happening in an hour. Jets 6-9 at the 10-5 Browns, who are suddenly surging to the playoffs, undefeated since I called for the Joe Flacco Super Bowl run on Fantasy Football Advice Network's Friday show. So that's been really fucking hilarious to track. Mike, kick us off. Who are we starting in this game?
Well, we just got news that Amari Cooper is now out, so he is not playing. I don't know if you caught that one, Jack, yet, but it just came out like literally probably 5 minutes ago. So he is out. I'm really liking Njoku play this week. The Jets are good against wide receivers, but they are not good against tight ends. They are 12th in the league against tight ends. So I think he's a great play this week. I'm loving Joe Flacco as a good play, a mid-range quarterback. I'd say in super flex leagues, he's definitely a start. He'd be pushing to start as a one quarterback if you're really desperate, but Njoku is my play here. And obviously Breece Hall. What about yourself?
So can you inspire me on Jerome Ford? Because I'm forced to start him in my Dynasty Championship at 16-man league. Cortland Sutton in concussion protocol, and now with Russell Wilson probably not playing that game, which we'll get to later. I have no other options. It's Jerome Ford or bust. What is it with Jerome Ford? Is it just like the fact that he's not getting all the work and he is splitting with Kareem Hunt? Because I thought, or maybe it's just the matchups are tougher than we thought they were going to be when we were looking at it a couple weeks ago. I thought he was going to be like a buy-in and a viable play through the fantasy playoffs.
You know what? I have a lot of Jerome Ford too. I made a couple trades for him mid-season, and I was hoping for him to pay off for me. But I think that Kareem Hunt addition there really kicks in, especially in the red zone. Jerome Ford's not getting those red zone looks that I thought he would get. They prefer Kareem Hunt for some reason. There, he's more of a bruiser, I guess. So that's where it's gone wrong. If there is any optimism tonight, I know that the Jets aren't great against the run. I think they rank 24th against the run. So, there could be some leeway there in between the 20s, but and last week he scored in the red zone too. So there is, it's not like he doesn't get any work there, but I think Kareem Hunt's the play. Unfortunately, I was hoping that Kareem Hunt wouldn't play for my Jerome Ford shares, but it looks like he's a full go and he will play tonight. So I'm with you, man. We're hoping that he breaks off the long run for a touchdown or he's involved in the passing game, because I know that Flacco likes to check down. And if they double up Njoku tonight, which they might do now that Cooper is out, that could be a viable option along with Elijah Moore. I see him being liable now as well.
That's definitely something I didn't know even before we were jumping on this broadcast, because I was putting stuff together. So that's breaking news on the show. Amari Cooper is out. The only guy we haven't mentioned in this matchup is Garrett Wilson, who to me is mid-tier level at this point. I would treat him like a wide receiver 3, where I'm going to play him over extreme auxiliary options. But otherwise, I'll start all my studs and even my wide receiver 2s above him.
Agreed. I mean, I have him ranked in right around wide receiver 21, a little bit higher than you, I guess. He is a wide receiver 2 for me. The Jets are second in the league versus the pass. They got Sauce Gardner, the Browns are first against the league in the pass. So they're going to really shadow him, I think. So, not looking good. But he might get the targets in a game that they might be behind in. So we'll see what happens.
All right, we'll get into basically, to me, what is there's 2 games of the week, and the first one is on Saturday. We'll get it early. Lions at Cowboys. The 11-4 division winner Lions will take on the 10-5 Cowboys. Start everyone you can, right?
Yeah, I got as smash plays this week. I got Dak, I got Jahmyr Gibbs, I got Amon-Ra St. Brown, I got CeeDee Lamb. All smash plays this week. I've got Laporta, Goff, and Monty as really good plays. And you know what? Now that I found out that Rico Dowdle is out, that bumps up Tony Pollard a little bit for me. Tony Pollard's been really lackluster. He's, I was big on him to start the year, and it's been really, really crappy in a lot of my leagues that I've had him in. So hopefully this week he can tear off some good runs and get some red zone targets, because I think this game is going to be a shootout. So start everybody if you got him. This is a game I circled on my calendar when I was doing my drafts, knowing that it might come down to a really big game. And I got a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs, I got a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I got a lot of CeeDee Lambs in my championship lineup. So let's go.
Awesome. So with Pollard, it's funny because it was very much, I started on the opposite spectrum where I thought he would be a bust. And then it was almost like they tricked me for a little while. And then they went back and reverted to running him up the center's ass 12 times a game. If they're going to do it 20 times a game, though, he will be viable even if he is inefficient. So I think I agree with you there on starting him with Dowdle out.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be really keen on him if Dowdle was playing. Dowdle takes a lot of, important red zone targets away from him, but Pollard should be playable this week. And hopefully if you're still in it and you have Pollard in your lineup, he will, hopefully turn out this week.
So if you had Detroit and Dallas circled on your calendar, I had this next game circled on mine. Miami Dolphins 11-4 at the 12-3 Baltimore Ravens, and we've seen these two teams get into a shootout before. I think this could be the one that disappoints, though. I'm starting to think this is going to hit the under. Can you talk me out of that, or what's going on with the
you know what? I can't. I mean, you got some top ranked defenses here playing really good. Miami is underrated. So is Baltimore's defense is playing lights out too. And there's some really big question marks on the Miami side as far as injuries go. That Waddle isn't playing. We're unsure of Mostert's playing. HN's also banged up. So, there's a lot of variables there. And they're in Baltimore too. So I could see them wanting to control the clock with the run game. And it'd be kind of like a lower scoring game. I know the line is 46.5. And I'm with you there. I think that's going to hit the under.
So Tyreek, I think you start him by default no matter what.
Matchup proof, 100%.
A-Chain is the one that has disappointed when he has played. We've seen that he can be so explosive with limited touches. If Mostert's out and it's going to be A-Chain and Jeff Wilson, what is, I guess, the level that you're starting him over? So, like, to compare to like a David Montgomery or even like a Zeke who has the backfield to himself, but it's going to be gross and a bad matchup.
Well, I got HN above both those guys right now. Zeke and him are pretty close. I'd say they're 12 and 13 right now. HN, seriously, if with Waddle being out, that's a huge thing for me. And if Mostert is not going to play, I think that's a smash spot for HN. They're gonna try and get him the ball in those space. I think the reason why he hasn't had that much run lately, though, is because he has been hurt. He is getting back, and they haven't needed to use him. And I think they're trying to save him for the playoffs and saving some of that playbook for the playoffs as well. But in a game this week where they're going to need him, I think he's a pretty good play, especially if Mostert's out. If Mostert's out, if Mostert is playing, I'm downgrading him. I would start Zeke over him, but I would not start Montgomery over, because I think Gibbs is now completely a smash play. He's getting all those red zone looks now. Montgomery was effective because he was getting those red zone looks. Gibbs is coming in now, and he's getting at least 50% of those, and he's being effective with them. And I don't know if you're a big Gibbs truther, but I am. I think he's incredible. I think he's taken that backfield.
Gibbs was another one I flip-flopped on, but unlike Tony Pollard, it was the opposite kind of flip-flop where I didn't necessarily not believe in Jahmyr Gibbs, but I always thought that rookies take time and it's not going to be there right from week one. I don't necessarily want to draft them at capital. And I was kind of out on it. I thought it would end up being more of a sideways move for the Lions in general. I was wrong about that, and then started buying in around week 6 and trading for him in a lot of places. So kind of changed my perspective on him. The same way I've kind of changed my perspective on Tua, because I think you see from the outside looking in, the Dolphins is this explosive offense, and yet Tua, the last 2 weeks, only 1 touchdown per game. Are you fading Tua in this game? And like, for what options?
Oh, geez. I mean, Tua, let me pull up my rankings here. He's way down there right now. I'm starting a lot of guys over Tua, like a ton of them. I'd even start Geno Smith against Pittsburgh. Kyler Murray in a game where he's going to be probably, I mean, if he plays, I know he was sick today and missed practice, but in a game against Philly where he might be, getting a lot of garbage time, I like Kyler in that position. I like Jordan Love against the Vikings. Baker Mayfield's been lights out. There's a ton of guys I'd be starting over Tua this week. Stroud is looking like he's going to play. Brock Purdy's in a smash play against Washington. Mahomes, that's where you're kind of like.
That was the one. I have a big shit-eating grin on my face because I know for a fact that I have a friend who has Mahomes and Tua on his roster, and he's going to be having to make that decision. So is that the line with how Mahomes has been playing and everything that's going on?
But I think Mahomes is the play there. Tua is not great on the road. It's going to be an outdoor game in Baltimore. Mahomes is at home. Yes, they haven't been playing great there. Rashi Rice is due. I just think Mahomes is the better play there. And in a game where both teams are needing to win, I think Mahomes is the right play.
So on the Baltimore side, Lamar, obviously, I think given the tight end landscape, if you have Isaiah Likely, you are probably starting him. I have him in my mind as probably a top 10 option or close to at least.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Gus Bus is one of my favorite DFS plays. How are we feeling about the Gus Bus this week?
Okay. Well, the Gus Bus, this Miami defense is very good against the rush. Actually, they're fifth against, so they only allow, I think, under 100 yards a game. What I like about the Gus Bus here is that I think they're going to lean on the run a lot to keep Tyreek off the field. So yeah, I think he's going to come in. I don't think he's going to be a smash play. I think he's going to be a playable RB2. He may find the end zone, which I think you're going to have to rely on with him. But if he finds the end zone, then I think he's going to return the value that you're looking for. But he's going to have to find the end zone because Miami's defense is really stout against the run.
All right, so let's move on to the next Sunday matchup: Patriots at Bills. 4-11 Patriots at the 9-6 Bills.
Okay.
I mean, Zeke and no one else. That's the easy side on the Patriots. For the Bills, it's been rough for Stephon Diggs owners, and I am one. I'm starting him because it's the Dynasty League I mentioned earlier. It's so deep that I don't have – I have a very clear path in that league at the very least where I have all stars in my lineup. I have no depth on the bench. There is nobody on the bench that I'm having to question if I'm starting them because Cortland Sutton caught another DNP and Russ won't play. So for me, I'm just going to go with Jerome Ford today and hope for the best. But otherwise, I have Tyreek, I have Amon-Ra, I have Justin Jefferson, I have Stephon.
That's a horrible. Those are horrible receivers, man. I don't know how you like.
It's crazy because most years people would be like, "Oh my god, like you should dog walk the finals." It's like this year, I literally am nervous. I have no idea what's gonna happen. My opponent's team is just as good. He has CMC and others, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. All I can see is CMC, and I'm like tilting. Because I cannot.
I'm in the same boat.
Another fucking championship in this league. I have Mahomes and Kelsey. I have Lamar. It's a super flex. Like it's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, ridiculous.
How stacked I am in this league, and it would piss me off to no end if I lose another fucking championship. Second year in a row it would be. But that's getting away from the point of we're still starting Stephon Diggs here. Allen is in for sure. James Cook.
Oh yeah, huge smash play.
Still okay. Davis, can you trust the goose after he goosed you 2 straight and then had a monster week?
For me, I'm not starting anybody really. I mean, you have to start Diggs. But you got to temper your your expectations for him against the Patriots. I just don't think this game is conducive to a passing game. I just don't see it. It's in New England. I think they're going to try and run the hell out of Zeke. I think Zeke is going to touch the ball 30 plus times, like just to kind of control this game. Since Ken Dorsey has been fired, the Bills have been a completely different team offensively. They're running the ball a lot more. They're using the screenplay. They're using checkdowns. I just really like the spot that James Cook is in here. He's my RB6 this week. I think he's a really good position to smash. But Gabe Davis, my friend, is not somebody I'm starting. I'm not rolling the dice on a Gabe Davis game against a good New England defense in New England.
Gabe Davis is the ultimate FU player every time you try to put him in the lineup.
Go fuck yourself.
All right, let's move on to Falcons at Bears. 7-8 Falcons. Bears are 6-9. Holy shit. Darther Smith, the ultimate fantasy villain. I mean, if you have Falcons on your roster, you are probably not playing in the championship. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that you are. Which ones would you start here?
Well, I think last week Arthur Smith showed us that he's kind of back on the Bijan Robinson train. And I hope he is, because I just think that this is a game that Bijan should have. He's in my top 12 this week. I just love what I see from Bijan. He just hasn't got the run that he needs. So I think he's going to be in there. As far as anybody else, I am not starting Drake London or Kyle Pitts. Drake London was in a smash spot last week at home in a dome. This week he's going in Chicago in December, almost January. I'm not liking that with the quarterback that, he hasn't played a whole lot with really. So, and then Kyle Pitts is the other one, like last week he had a good game, but the Bears are good. They're a good defense, and they're stopping players left, right, and center. So I just don't like any other play other than Bijan this week.
Yeah, I mean, famously on Monday Mayhem, we have the segment "Who scored more than Kyle Pitts" for a reason. And it's because if you drafted him, you probably got boned.
Bone! What happens in my bedroom, detective, is none of your business. Bone! Don't ever speak to me like that again.
Man, that was one that I called in the preseason too. Arthur Smith just fucking hates, his athletic tight end. He loves Jonnu Smith for a reason. He runs the most 2 tight end sets in the league. On the Bears side, though, the Falcons' defense is underrated, and Khalil Herbert's coming off a usable fantasy game. If for some reason, let's just say, you were in a position of you've made the championship and Herbert somehow has made his way on waivers and he's sitting there staring you in the face and you're dealing with your own kind of injuries, can you run it back with Khalil Herbert? Or is it really just like Justin Fields, DJ Moore, because he somehow avoided injury and no one else?
Well, Herbert did have his best game last week, rushing 20 times for 112 yards and a touchdown. Finally, the Bears found their number one, right? Well, Deonta Foreman will be back this week. He missed last week with some personal reasons. Now it's back to a 3-headed backfield. They had an easy matchup last week versus the Cardinals, but now they have a tougher one, like you mentioned, against Atlanta. They only give up 110 yards per game on the ground on average. The Falcons are number 2 in allowing the fewest yards to opposing running backs. So in a split backfield, 3 ways, I just don't see it happening. Last week was a mirage. We saw Roschon Johnson get into a game and have a really good game in the middle of the year. We see Deonta Foreman have a good game. This backfield is split 3 ways, and it was just the fact that Khalil Herbert, got into a good position last week because of factors outside of, football that prevented Deonta Foreman from playing. And he got that opportunity against a good matchup, which is not going to happen this week, in my opinion. So I wouldn't be happy about Khalil Herbert after last week.
I said Fields, DJ Moore, and no one else, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention Cole Kmet, because he's actually been having a good season. What's the deal with him, though? Because I know he was banged up. Is it looking like he is going to be available or not?
I don't think he's playing this week, so that makes me think that Darnell Mooney might be somebody that they're going to rely on a little bit here as that Kmet role. He likes those intermediate routes. And DJ Moore is banged up too. He suffered that ankle sprain last week, and I was actually surprised he finished that game. Wide receivers can come back from ankle sprains. They tape it up. But, after last week, it's probably swelled up a bit here, and he's going to be a little bit gingerly. So, if there is a dark horse here, look for Darnell Mooney maybe with all the injuries they have and that situation here in Atlanta that they're playing. So,
There you go. If you're really looking for the pot shot deep sleeper in a dynasty league or in an otherwise, like one of those 14, 16-man leagues, you're dealing with maybe Darnell Mooney is out there for you. We'll move it along. Titans at Texans, divisional matchup here. 5-10 Titans, 8-7 Texans. Can the Titans play spoiler? And is Derrick Henry still the slam dunk that we all thought he was against the Texans?
Do you want to see me dunk?
Sure.
Yeah? Okay. Are you guys ready? I'm okay. No, don't worry.
Does that always happen?
These are priceless. I love it.
So, I mean, he fucked me over the last Texans matchup. I assumed it was going to be 200 yards in the powder blues. They're running it back against the Texans. I mean, obviously, again, I keep saying it's 16-man dynasty, the one I'm dealing with. I will be playing Derrick Henry. But I guess what should my expectations be?
For me, he nestles in right around like a running back 20. And I'm sorry to say that. Just this Texans team, they got a great rush defense. They only allow 90 yards per game again on the ground, and we saw that against him a couple weeks ago. I needed 2 points out of Derrick Henry, 2 more points, and I would have made it to the semis in the Scott Fish Bowl. 2 freaking points. And he had one of his worst games of the year versus the Texans. And I don't see it being any better this week. CJ Stroud's back. Nico Collins will be playing. The Texans are going to be up pretty big here, and this looks like more of a Tajay Spears game for me. I actually have Spears ranked a bit ahead of Henry. He's going to see the second half kind of play out. I'd be tempering your expectations for Derrick Henry against a really good Houston defense, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, in the same breath, I thought DeAndre Hopkins would have more of a revenge game the last time out. Do you think maybe he has any relevance? I'm scared. It's Tannehill still this week, right?
Well, no, Will Levis actually practiced today, so he might play. I like his arm better than Tannehill's getting those deep shots to Hopkins. But it's tough sledding there. If you got a banged up Will Levis throwing the ball, like he's not a smash play. I mean, you have Hopkins, you're probably playing him as your wide receiver 3 flex position like you have all year. He's probably going to be good for that. He might get 5 to 10 catches, 60 yards roughly, maybe a touchdown if you can get in the end zone there, but not in a smash spot whatsoever, I don't think.
So, I mean, the Titans defense, though, even though the record doesn't necessarily reflect it, they've been pretty solid all year. I feel like it's the offense has let them down more than anything.
Yeah.
Are you confident in playing CJ Stroud his first game back? Are you throwing Nico Collins out there? And what are you doing with Devin Singletary?
So Devin Singletary has the toughest matchup out of all these guys because the Titans are really stout against the run. So I would say Singletary still fits in like an RB2 range. Nico Collins is a borderline wide receiver 1 for me this week, right around maybe 11, 12, 13 range. He's Dalton Schultz is still banged up and Tank Dell's not in. And, Noah Brown, he's had some boom games here, but I'm not sold on him. And I just think that they want to get that connection because the Texans are in the playoff hunt here and they could still make the playoffs. And if they could get some momentum going into the next couple of weeks here in a game, which they should win, I think Nico Collins should ball as well. So I'm hoping that this is a game where, I'm not expecting a top 5 finish for CJ Stroud, but I see him in the top 10 coming in and, in a pretty good matchup for him.
All right. Next up, Raiders at Colts, 7-8 Raiders. Colts are 8-7. Colts in a 3-way dance for that division title still, but they're dealing with a lot of injuries. Let's start actually on the Raiders side, though, because I feel like it's easier to deal with there. Obviously, I feel like the running back, whether it's Jacobs if he comes back or Zamir White if he doesn't, you start them. What are you doing with Devontae Adams?
I like Devontae Adams a lot this week. They're in a dome. Indy has a really, really weak pass defense too. Well, not really weak. I think they're mid range. But in a dome, I just really like Devontae Adams. In this spot, I have him. Not a wide receiver one, but a high end wide receiver two. Right around the wide receiver 15 range for me is where Adams slots in. He's had a couple down games, and I'm looking for him to bounce back. And I actually like Jacoby Myers too in this spot as well. I think he is a flex-worthy play too.
So flipping back to Indianapolis, because we can get through this one pretty quickly. I feel like Jonathan Taylor, yeah. Michael
yeah.
Pittman, if he plays, yeah. And do you play Minshew, I guess, in a super flex format is my question.
Only if Pittman plays. I mean, we saw what he was like last week without Pittman in the lineup. He looks anemic. He's got nobody to pass to. Josh Downs isn't as effective without Pittman. And Alec Pierce is not the answer either. They had Montgomery in there that first game when Pittman got out, and I thought he was effective. I thought he'd play a bigger role last week, and he wasn't there. So just Minshew needs his number one receiver in order to be effective. So if Pittman is out, I would not be starting Minshew.
I also just am reminded of a joke I made that if you forgot to take out the Raiders defense from last week, then you were happy about it because they've been one of the best defenses the last 2 weeks in terms of fantasy. Now, I had them as my number one pickup and play 2 weeks ago. In fact, in my main home league, even though I wasn't in the playoffs, the Toilet Bowl is designed that whoever finishes last in Toilet Bowl, or I guess wins Toilet Bowl, or however you want to define that, they get banished for 1 year minimum. And potentially I was on the chopping block, and thanks to Raiders defense and Zamir White and a couple other key plays, I won my way out of Toilet Bowl that first week, so I didn't have to stress about that, thank God.
Yeah.
If I had kept playing Raiders defense through the whole time, though, like they've been, like I said, number one, are they still a great play this week? Would you play them, I guess, if Michael Pittman plays? Obviously, if he doesn't, I feel like they're a great play still. But if let's just pretend Pittman is in, would you still play them?
Oh yeah. They went into Arrowhead, and I know the Chiefs aren't playing great right now, but that defense completely changed that game completely. Like that defense took that game over on 2 plays. And they could do it again. Max Crosby's getting a ton of pressure on the quarterback. Their defensive backs are playing lights out. I don't see this stopping. And that team is playing hard for AP. They want him there next year. And I'm hoping to see that as well. For all those Raider fans out there, I'm really hoping that they get AP. I think Raider Nation is on it. And we'll see what happens. The guy's a good coach. I think his game management needs to improve, but he's working on that. And the Raiders are playing good football right now, and are not out of the playoffs. That's crazy.
No, I liked him as an interim hire. I thought it would actually have more of a positive effect on Josh Jacobs, and I think it would have if he wasn't dealing, obviously, with his own injuries before and after AP took over. But the run game in general has seen a massive boost. Obviously, run game defense, that's kind of the mentality of AP. We'll skip to Panthers at Jaguars. 2-13 Panthers, 8-7 Jaguars. You would think this is the easiest matchup for the 3 teams fighting for that crappy AFC South title. But man, the Jaguars are like fucked up right now.
Yeah.
Can you trust any Jaguars that is basically besides Evan Ingram right now in your lineup?
So since week 9, Travis Etienne has been the RB33. He was on a downslide after a red hot start. if you are still alive after Etienne's worst game of the year, where he rushed 6 times for 12 yards, you should be in good shape this week. Etienne is set up to smash. Carolina gives up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing running backs and the 12th most rushing yards per game. Trevor Lawrence is banged up, but it looks like he's going to play. So even if Lawrence does play, the Jags will lean on the run game in what should be an easier win for the Jags. Etienne, for me this week, is easily a top 10 guy against the Panthers and their rush defense that gives up, I think they give up roughly around 120 yards a game. And I think this is a good spot for Etienne to be in.
That's not good news for me because I'm pretty sure my opponent this week in the championship is going to have T-Law and ETN going against me. So I'm hoping Panthers defense can step it up a little bit this week. I don't assume that anyone really has Panthers players in the championship. Would you play Chuba or Adam Thielen here?
I'd play Adam Thielen if I had him. I mean, the Jags give up a ton of yards, 257. They're ranked 29th in the league in passing. Honestly, after last week, it looks like Bryce Young's number 1 target is actually DJ Chark, and he may be a guy that could be emerging here in this offense late in the season. I don't see him being there next year, but I think the Panthers take a big role in trying to get, their offense set up. But DJ Chark has been effective. I think he scored 2 touchdowns last week. So those are guys, Thielen and Chark could be dart throws here in a game where, they're playing from behind against a pass defense that has been really bad.
I like Chark as a sneaky DFS play in a revenge game spot too against his old
There you
team.
go. Yeah. I didn't even put that together too. Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, it could be there.
All right. Let's piddle through a couple more of these games. Rams at Giants. Rams are 8-7 and surging. The Giants are 5-10. Moving on from my guy, sadly, Tommy DeVito. Hey, I'm on the bench over here. So who are we starting on the Giants, if anyone, besides Saquon Barkley?
Even Barkley, man, he's got a tough matchup. I'm not starting. Yeah, Barkley, you have to start. I am definitely not starting anybody else. Slayton may be in a flex spot there with Tyrod Taylor playing. Taylor, if you're really desperate in a super flex, but there's no way you're in the finals and playing Tyrod Taylor. So yeah, I mean, all the smash plays are on the Rams side. Stafford for sure.
It's easy. It's Stafford. It's Cup. It's Puka. It's Kyron.
Yeah, exactly. All those guys that have gotten you here. What a good matchup for them to get you that trophy that, if you spent that fab on Kyron or Puka, or if you're savvy like me and have Puka in so many spots and drafted him, and you're sitting pretty good.
Hey, we're 2 peas in a pod. Puka I had everywhere. He was one of my most drafted rookie wide receivers. But Kyron Williams, ironically enough, I have him in the Dynasty League. It's going to be him and Derrick Henry are my main 2 running backs right now. And Kyron Williams was a draft pick. In that league, obviously, I always trade away my picks. The names I rattled off earlier at wide receiver and the superstars I have is because I just constantly trade my first and second picks and futures all away. I'm like, get rid of them. They're useless.
Me too. I'm just a draft pick monger. I just get rid of them. And I don't people think I'm crazy, but you know what? I'm in the now. I can make that up later on. I see value now, and if the unknown is tough for me. This year is tough because it's those draft picks. 2024. This class is insane. But in prior years, I had no problem getting rid of draft picks.
Well, and so I've been lucky that I've hit on the later picks that I have made, and Kyron Williams was one of those picks. Coming out of Notre Dame, I just liked his character, and then he kind of landed with the Rams. I was like, maybe, definitely didn't think anything last year. Wasn't even really sure he'd be anything this year. And obviously now he's like potentially a fantasy MVP, carrying people through the playoffs and into their fantasy championships. So it's just kind of funny how that worked out.
And he missed like 4 games. Like he went on IR. Can you
Yeah.
imagine the season he would be in the McCaffrey talk if he like McVay is using him like Gurley, which is incredible. Like you don't see that often as these workhorse running backs anymore. I made a trade in a dynasty league 2 weeks ago where it was kind of like I'm in a good spot. I'm making a run. I traded Jonathan Taylor away because he was injured, and I traded him for Kyron Williams and Tajay Spears straight up like that. And I was like, I'm still happy with that. I think Tajay is going to be in a spot next year where he's going to have the opportunity to get the lead back role, and Kyron Williams, if he's still there with McVay loves him, and McVay's, they might bring in another running back, but McVay's gonna, keep his hot hand, and as long as he's in his good books, Kyron Williams is gonna be, I think, a top 5 running back in redraft next year.
That's ballsy and looking ahead, because I can tell you I would not have made that trade.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go on to the next matchup here. Cardinals at Eagles, 3-12 Cardinals at the 11-4 Eagles, the explosive Arizona Cardinals.
Shots, explosives.
So, James Conner, and I guess if you're really desperate, Kyler Murray, but man, this matchup is rough against the Eagles defense. Though I will say the defense obviously not as good now, I feel like, as they were at the beginning of the year. So I guess, is there anyone I'm missing besides, I guess Trey McBride, sorry. So McBride, obviously like the main passer. I guess in the wide receiver room, is there anyone I'm missing on the Cardinals that we should be thinking about here?
Well, in a game where I think they're going to be trailing, and I think there's going to be a lot of garbage time. I love Trey McBride here. I think he's a smash play. He's my tight end 2 this week. I love Trey McBride. If I could marry him, he would be my bride. That's how much this guy means to me in fantasy right now. And I got him in a ton of leagues. But I think that what I said with the garbage time there, I know it sounds like you're going to throw up in your mouth and probably swallow and throw up again, but Marquise Brown could be a flex play if he plays. The targets are there. The garbage time could lead to a decent game. He could be a flyer if you're desperate. That would be it.
So for the Eagles, it feels like in the passing game in a sense gets overrated, I think, sometimes, of how large of a pie potentially they are sharing. When you're talking about Jalen Hurts is not going out and throwing for 400 yards a game. He is throwing for 200 yards a game and then getting push touches and getting all his fantasy value there. And so it's leaving, whether it's on a weekly basis, A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith or Dallas Goedert, one of them's getting left out in the cold. Do you have, I guess, a vibe check on which one potentially it could be this week? Because otherwise, I think most people are just starting all of those players and DeAndre Swift in their lineups.
Yeah, because they're all in good matchups this week. DeAndre Swift's got a great matchup. AJ Brown. It really depends on how the start of the game goes. I like the AJ Brown early on, and he'll be faded out. They seem to only use Devonta Smith a lot when the games are closer. So if I have a hunch there, I think that would be the guy I'd fade in this matchup. But it's tough. You're going to start all those guys. If you got into the championship, you have Devonta Smith, you have AJ Brown, Swift is a play, Goddard's a play. They're all, you can't sit any of those guys. But if there was a fade, I would probably say it would be Smith.
For Dallas Goedert, though, maybe it's just me. I've always felt that he's very mid and overrated. And when you look at his career trajectory, and I guess injuries play a part in it, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same thing this year. He has never been over 800 yards in a season. I think it's like 835 or something is his max. He's never had more than like 6 touchdowns in a season. Like, are we overrating Goddard's role in this offense and how it's going to affect Devonta Smith?
Most likely, yes, for sure. Like I don't have hardly any Goddard shares in any league I have, because of that fact. I'm lower on Laporta too because of that fact. You know, like when guys have got, you got 2 wide receivers that are target hogs, you got a good backfield, you got a decent quarterback. You know, in those situations, the who's going to suffer the most is probably the tight end. And in the future, like, I love Laporta. I think he's an awesome talent. He's still top 5, but I got McBride over top of Laporta in a dynasty. Just so everybody knows, that's just my stance on that. But yeah, Goddard is in the same situation. I'm fading him too. Like, I don't think he's a huge play. And since Shane Steichen left the Eagles, I think their offense has been a lot worse. You know, Jalen Hurts hasn't been the same passer as he was last year. He's struggling more. I think Steichen was a very good quarterback coach, and I think he's going to do really good things with Anthony Richardson. But with that offense, the Eagles aren't the same team, and you know, they're not the powerhouse that they were last year.
All right. Let's jump into an NFC South matchup here, division matchup. Saints at Buccaneers, 7-8 Saints, 8-7 Bucks. The Bucks really surprised me this year. Honestly, I had been in the camp that thought they were going to be dog shit. I didn't think Baker Mayfield was like abjectly horrible or anything, but I definitely didn't see him having the kind of season that he's having, and, you know, carrying this team potentially to a division title and a playoff berth. Assuming you've been riding that wave, I think Mike Evans, given that Lattimore is not going to be playing, is in the lineup for sure. Rashad White is a smash play. Chris Godwin is the one that actually kind of concerns me because it feels like he was the one that was faded super hard in this offense for a while. There was a point in the year where he had no receptions and 1 rushing touchdown, and then suddenly explodes for like 9 for 150 and then kind of has tapered off again. What should we expect from Chris Godwin in this matchup? And then is there anyone else that I didn't mention that we should think about?
Like on the Bucks side, I think Chris Godwin, you know, he's in the last 2 games, he's coming on pretty strong. His target share has increased. I think, you know, he is becoming more familiar with Baker and being in the right spots. I really like this Bucks team, and they're turning themselves around. Baker's playing at the best level I've ever seen him play at. You know, but Chris Godwin is another liable wide receiver 3. Like, he's definitely in the top 30 for me this week. You know, just with target share alone in a game where, you know, they're playing a division rival that always plays them tight. I like Godwin in this one as well.
All right. And on the Saints side, I mean, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave. Derek Carr is an interesting name because it feels like every time I want to fade Derek Carr, he just rises up from the dead. Would you play him in this matchup? I guess more in a super flex format because you probably have a better option in single quarterback.
I love Derek Carr this week. He's been playing really good as of late. He's got 8 touchdowns in the last 3 games. So he definitely falls into that quarterback 2 streamer. I have him as my quarterback 15 this week. I like Rashid Shaheed this week in a good matchup. You know, he was injured there, coming back. You know, since Michael Thomas went down, he's seen an uptick. He's kind of a boomer bust kind of play, but I think he could be a guy that could be put into lineups if you're in need. But I also like Jawan Johnson in the last 2 games. He has been the tight end 8, and I'm looking at him to finish as a top 12 tight end this week. With, you know, with the Hawkinson news and the Komet news, you know, we're looking at these streamers now at tight end because most people that have gotten to the fantasy championships probably had a Hawkinson or potentially Komet help you get there, and you're going to be down those guys. So I would be looking at Jawan Johnson as a flex play this week, or a streamer for me.
So that obviously means Jimmy Graham is going to score another touchdown.
Probably, yeah, because I said it. Absolutely.
All right. 49ers at Commanders. Flipped records here. 11-4 for the Niners, 4-11 for the Manders. Manders, what the hell are you guys doing? Why are we switching to Jacoby Brissett now? Like, you couldn't have done that like 6 games ago when you could have maybe made a playoff run, because he was clearly better the whole time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, the 49ers, let's just ignore them, because obviously you were playing all of your 49ers that got you to the championship.
Yeah.
You should not be questioning if you're playing CMC or Debo or Ayuk or Kittle. Yes, maybe one of them does not eat, but this is the type of matchup where they actually probably all do. So just throw them all in and hope for the best. But on the Manders side, I think there are real questions here. What the fuck do we do with Terry McLaurin is the real one?
Well, I mean, he's in a brutal matchup. The only thing he's got going for him is that Brissett seems to hyper target him since they've been playing together. So, in a PPR league, I think you can start McLaurin and still, get by with, probably 6-7 receptions, because he's going to get, targeted at least 10 times, I think, in a game where they're going to be playing behind. The 49ers are just going to destroy the Commanders this week. So with the backfield, we just saw that Chris Rodriguez went on IR. We don't know if Brian Robinson is playing. So that team is just a mess. And yeah, I mean, good luck if you have any of them in your lineup and you want to start them. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe McLaurin.
All right. Well, let's just move right along, because that was easy peasy. Steelers at Seahawks, Super Bowl 2015 rematch. 2015. Fuck. That was like 2008. I remember. Yeah. Way off. Anyways, old ass Super Bowl rematch. Steelers going back to Rudolph the Red Zone Reindeer, who fuck him for saying he didn't like that nickname. Bro, you are a third string quarterback. You get whatever fucking nickname you. All right. Would you go back to the well on George Pickens, who had the Randy Moss game last week? And what are you doing with any other Steelers, I guess, that for some reason are floating turds on what is otherwise a probably sterling roster for your playoffs?
Yeah, man, Pickens, I can't get him right. So whatever I say right now, the opposite will happen. I'm telling you right now. I had Pickens as a sit for me last week in my start sit section. So I'm eating a lot of crow this week on that one. So fuck, I have no idea. Like, my guess is that Rudolph is going to hyper target Pickens and he'll have another good game, but I can't. Yeah, it's hard to start any Steelers, but I do like Najee Harris this week. The Seahawks are pretty weak against the run. They're 27th in the league. So, Najee Harris could be a sneaky play here if this game is a low scoring game, like the line suggests. If it's a position battle where they're running the ball a lot, which both coaches love to do, I think Najee Harris is set up for a good one here.
You talked about Derrick Henry had his worst game and knocked you out of Scott Fishbowl. It was Najee who knocked me out of mine. Fuck. On the Seahawks side, you mentioned Geno. You had him as a great streaming quarterback this week. Even in a single quarterback above a lot of options, given the amount of injuries that people have suffered through. Like, Justin Herbert, I had a lot of teams that were championship potential teams that lost Herbert. If I was somehow still managing my way through those injuries, I might be looking at a guy like a Geno Smith who, in certain home leagues when he was injured got dropped.
Yeah, I mean, Geno, he's probably in there because there's nobody else around. Like there's guys I'd start over him. But yeah, I mean, like if you lost Herbert, you probably don't have anybody that is sitting in the top 12 right now that you can start comfortably. So Gino for me is definitely on the borderline of a QB1 this week with that matchup versus the Steelers. So yeah, he could you'll put him in there. He's probably good for 2 touchdowns, 200 yards passing, maybe 30 yards on the ground, or a little bit less than that. So, a decent start, but not a smash play by any means.
Last week was the first time that we saw all 3 of the wide receivers be kind of fantasy relevant. I don't think it repeats this week. To me, it's JSN that I'm fading.
Yeah.
Are you in agreement there, basically? Are you still playing DK and Tyler Lockett and not necessarily fucking around with JSN?
Yeah, exactly. If like JSN, I think is more touchdown dependent based off of his lack of target share. Gino is his first 2 reads are obviously Lockett and Metcalf, and then he uses JSN when he needs to. I see JSN being used a lot on 3rd down and stuff like that. So he needs to score a touchdown. So I'd rather have the DK and the Lockett upside, and in this game against a decent defense.
Ted Walker smash play, right?
For sure. Yeah. Charbonnet is he looked bad with his opportunity. I could see him getting, less snaps this week because of it.
Cool. Chargers at Broncos. The Chargers, my God. Chargers gonna charge 10. Broncos 7-8. Are you starting anybody on the Chargers, including Austin Eckler?
I mean, Gerald Everett, I guess if I lost Hawkinson or if I lost Komet, I think Everett's in a good position here. Eckler, he's an RB2 for me. But that's it. Yeah, no one else I'm starting.
Man, even Eckler, I'm nervous because the Broncos obviously have kind of had their games where they've been had by the running backs, but they have been a much better defense as of late. And against the run, especially, I'm nervous about Eckler. If you somehow have managed to make it through to the fantasy championship with him, I mean, you're probably still playing him, but you want to talk about tempering expectations. And then on the Broncos side, nobody. I mean, they're sitting fucking Russell Wilson. Knows what the hell is going to happen, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and Cortland Sutton probably won't play either. So, nobody there.
All right. Move it right along them. Last of the Sunday afternoon games, Bengals at Chiefs. Normally a high power AFC championship rematch, but obviously it's going to be Jake Browning. And I think Jamar Chase with his Wolverine powers is going to play in this. So I think the questions are more on the Bengals side because on the Chiefs, it's going to be Mahomes and Kelsey still in your lineup. Rashee Rice has been tremendous. I think he's going to be in your lineup. And assuming Pacheco plays, probably in your lineup as well.
Yeah, I don't think Pacheco is going to play. I think it's too short of a turnaround. They played on Monday for him to clear concussion protocol. And it sounds like CEH actually missed.
IR.
Yeah.
So CEH time in the fantasy championships?
It might be, but he also missed practice today. He was ill. So it could be LaMichael Pirine. He's taken the first team reps in practice today, but it looks like CEH will be the guy, and he's not. He's in an actually pretty good matchup this week. The Bengals are 26 against the rush, allowing 127 yards per game on ground on the average, and it's in Arrowhead. So I actually have CEH as a top 24 running back this week if Pacheco is out.
Man, shout out to my guy HoofTube. He's gonna be so happy that CEH is relevant for fantasy championship.
No kidding.
Off just for him. On the Bengals side, I think that's where the tougher decisions are because the Chiefs are a really good defense, and this is a road matchup. Assuming Chase plays, though, he is Chase. He's in the lineup, right?
Yep. And I think that the key in every team that has beaten the Chiefs this year, there's one way of beating them, and that's on the ground. And I just see Joe Mixon being used a lot this week. He may not be effective, but they're going to use him to kill the clock. So I don't see a huge game for T. Higgins if Chase plays. If Chase plays, play Chase and Mixon. If Chase is out, play Higgins and Mixon. And then Browning can be a streamer in Superflex leagues and 2 quarterback leagues.
All right, let's let out one final Shiva blast before we get into this last championship matchup. The Green Bay Packers at Minnesota Vikings. Both teams are 7-8, still somehow fighting for a spot in the playoffs. Your fantasy championships will come down to this game because there is no Monday nighter. So, Packers, Vikings, who you got?
Well, I got Justin Jefferson as a complete smash. We don't know if Addison's going to play. We know that Hawkinson is done for the year. Jair Alexander has been ruled out because he got suspended. So, huge smash play for Jefferson here. I love him in this spot. Jaden Reed practiced today, which is a good sign because from what I saw, Dontavian Wicks didn't practice and neither did Christian Watson. So the revolving door of Green Bay Packer wide receivers are going to be in tight again. They do have a pretty good matchup versus the Vikings, but the Vikings have been playing really good on defense as of late. So for me, I got Tucker Kraft as a streaming tight end. I got Jordan Love as a top 12 quarterback, and Aaron Jones is a smash play, I think, in this week against the Vikings because they're going to need to lean on him quite a bit.
I've been on my guy Tucker Kraft for a hot minute now. I said when he was coming out of the draft, and I forget the beat reporter that said it, but they compared him and Musgrave to Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst when they were coming out of the draft, and it was Tucker Kraft got the Andrews comparison, and I was like, oh dang, that's pretty high praise for a rookie. So I always thought he had potential as like a receiver. Once he got his chance. And it was funny that Musgrave kind of got the start ahead of him, similarly to how it used to be Hayden Hurst running ahead of Mark Andrews back in the day. So I agree with you. I super love the Tucker Kraft shout out. Justin Jefferson on the Viking side. The only thing I wanted to ask about on the Viking side too is what the hell's going on with the running backs? Is Madison playing in this game, or are we sticking with Ty Chandler here? Like, what's going on with that?
Well, I mean, Madison played last week. He was he was second fiddle to Chandler as well. So I think that's going to be more of the same. Kevin O'Connell went online, went on record and said Chandler's his guy, and he proved it last week. So I just think that Chandler's going to be another play here where he's going to get the volume. The Packers are not great against the run either. So Chandler could be in another good spot here depending on game script. So he's an RB2 for me this week for sure.
Hells yeah. And we do have a question in the comments. We do have a couple minutes, no problem. Anthony Persia, y'all got time? I'm stressing. Championship week. Hey, we are all stressing, my man. Otherwise, why do you even play the game? Gus Bus or Jerome Ford, half PPR. I'm going to go with Jerome Ford because I'm just manifesting it for myself. I'm being very selfish here. I also have Jerome Ford going in my 16-team dynasty league. I want to fucking win this league. If I come in second again, if I am the bridesmaid in this league again, I will rip out all of my beautiful hair that people keep telling me to cut off. Fuck, I will hate my life. What are you going with here?
I'm hoping that it's Ford too. But my gut says just because of the touchdown upside, I mean, Gus Edwards, you're starting those two guys, and they're pretty much splitting hairs in rankings. I think Gus has got the better opportunity to score a touchdown this week because they don't use Ford in the red zone. But you're splitting hairs. Just what's your luck on Thursday night? If you usually do well on Thursday night, then go with Ford. If you do well on Sunday, then I would be going with the other option there and do Gus Bus.
Hell yeah. Well, man, shout out to all you listeners out there. Man, shout out to you, Mike Lindberg at FF Canuck 99 for joining the show. I'm sure I will have you on some future shows. One last time for the people, tell us where we can find all your good work.
You can find me at dynastyprosfootball.com, and then also I do work for the player profiler Roto World, so check me out there. Love that I was on this show, Jack. Appreciate you having me. It's been a blast.
Hells to the yeah, and I will be back Sunday, 8:30 in the fucking morning, just like always. I will catch you guys all on the flip side.
He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man. Here comes